especially in health departments and so forth, with this COVID disease. If I remember correctly, we're something like 586 or 536,000 people have died, and people are still out there trying. And this just was brought up to me the other day, and I guess I wanted to add to this that we remember all the people who are not the health care professionals, but are also doing other things for those of us in the Bay and elsewhere to try to keep us safe. And it was brought up to me because I understand that we had a number of people who went out of their way to make, for instance, masks, et cetera, when this all started in the Bay 12 months ago. A lady was brought up to me, her name is Wright, Terry Wright, and I heard she made over 6,000 masks that she had on her porch that she gave away to people. So as we do our thought for the day and remember all of those who protect us, let's also remember those people who went out of their way to do the little things to all help us. So a moment of silence, please. Okay, Mr. Gruno, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. We don't have any presentation. Well, let's first of all go the agenda. Are there any additions, corrections, deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda stands as is. Any presentations, proclamations? None, no. Approval of minutes. You have received in your packet the minutes dated April 9, 2021. I assume everyone has looked at them and taken a chance to read them. And by the way, I do suggest you all read the minutes when you get them, because I just realized yesterday we passed some minutes a while back where there was a correction that should have been made, involved me, and I didn't take the time to go through and read them all. So are there any additions, deletions, corrections to the minutes? If not, I would like a motion, please, to approve the minutes as presented.
Move to accept as presented.
Second. Mr. Morrissey seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes passed. Treasurer's report. We have to do, roll call. Mr. Gruno, please do a roll call.
Okay, Mr. Loveland, excused. Mr. Gruno, present. Mr. Morrissey. Mr. Nugent. Chairman Mino.
Present.
We also have with us John Coffey, our community manager, Stephanie Brown, our district clerk, Cliff Reppinger, our counsel, and I also here we have Matt Getz from Property Services and Kathy Mendez from Food and Beverage. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Treasurer's report. In your packet, you have the Treasurer's report for April 27, 2021. I will do the Treasurer's report in place of Mr. Loveland. Cash balances in general fund is of $419.21. Total petty cash, $2,500. Operating cash in banks, $3,273,154.89 for a grand total operating accounts of $3,273,154.89. Interest-bearing accounts, $699,443.27. Total cash and cash balances in the general fund, $3,975,098.16. Deposits, daily deposits received for 4/1/21 through 4/19. Daily deposits, $113,372.47. Assessments received, $323,422.88 for total deposits of $436,795.35. Expenditures for 4/1/21 through 4/19/21. Total expenditures over $5,000 and above are $200,161.31. Expenditures under $5,000 during the same period, $85,560.41. Total expenditures, $285,721.72. Is there a motion to accept the financial report and to approve bills as presented?
Move to accept as read.
Moved by Mr. Gruno, seconded by Mr. Nugent. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Audience participation. I'm going in order as received. First, Lorraine Andrews. You got to please push the button. There you go. And give your name, please, and your address. Oh, she's not on somehow.
There we go then. Okay, Lorraine Andrews, 1221 Chippewa Drive. I'm here to talk about two of the items that were on last week's meeting. One of them was Attorney Cliff Reppinger's fees, and the other one is regarding the forgiveness of the debt and released liens. I'll start with Attorney Reppinger, and I'm not totally prepared, but I'm just going to try to wing it here. I am not in agreement with cutting back on Attorney Reppinger's being at each one of these Board of Trustee meetings. I feel he needs to be here. No disrespect to anybody on this board, but there is no seasoned politician or no attorney on this board, so your only real legal representation for this board to answer any questions, whether you have them as board members or trustees, or we have them as residents of the Bay. He is our go-to person. Now, I've seen many people, I've been here since 2012, and I've seen many people on this board that were new to the board and new to Florida law and new to the special district and how it operates. And they have relied heavily on I'm going to refer to him as Cliff, and relied heavily on him for his expertise and to explain things to him and explain things to the board members on how Florida law works. So I'm not in favor of cutting back on him being at these meetings. I think he feels he needs to be here, and at all the meetings. You're either going to pay now or pay later. You're either going to pay now to have him here at the meeting, and if something comes up, he can answer right away. Otherwise, it's going to just get tabled to the next meeting and put on the next agenda, and you're not really accomplishing anything. Okay? Again, no disrespect to anybody here. We're all learning. Everybody learns that comes onto this board, and I give people a lot of credit for coming on the board. However, you do need legal representation here at all the meetings, and that's my feeling. Okay, the second one was on loan forgiveness and regarding the properties. I don't believe that we should be doing that. If that's where you're trying to save some money, I think we should keep that and have those people pay for those fees that are owed for this district. If everybody took the same attitudes that these people on these properties took, that we're not going to pay, we're going to keep taking it to court, let them take it to court, let them keep going, and it's going to keep adding up on these fees. If we all took that same opinion, this place would be a rundown place. So now you're kind of setting a precedence here because it came up twice now. The first one was forgiven, the second one's not. So I feel, my personal feeling is not to forgive these fees, and if they're going to push it all the way to the courts, they should pay. I mean, they're residents, we're residents. Why should we have to pay and keep our properties up and try not to get any letters, and everybody else takes it to the limit and then gets a free wash before going to court? I don't agree with that. So I feel those, and it's not a good, as far as the violation committee goes and the DOR goes, I think that's totally disrespectful towards their jobs. They're in here doing their jobs, they're making recommendations, they have kept this bay clean, neat, and pretty safe for people to live here. So I believe that these fees and liens should go all the way to the courts and let the court decide. I don't believe in giving a free ride to these people. And that's all I have to say right now.
Thank you. Mr. Jansen, Bill Jansen?
Afternoon. I'm Bill Jansen, 513 Citron Drive. There's a couple things in regards to the boats. I've seen complaints. I've been running my boats here at East Lake for 2 years. Don't bother anybody. Most of the people enjoy watching them. I show them to them, explain to them. A couple of the boats are louder, the gas boats. It is a completely fuel-contained system. There's no vent. No fuel can leak into the water, even if the boat was to be upside down. The exhaust does not exhaust into the water, exhaust in the air, much the same way a weed whacker does. I don't see what we're harming with them back there. We picked the back lake because we're away from everybody. There's only a couple houses. That's just my extent on it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vieira, Jeffrey Vieira.
Good evening, Jeffrey Vieira, 809 Litchi Drive. So I want to talk a little bit about the what seems to be the biggest concern over the RC boats is the noise. So if we look at the Department of Environmental Police, they have a list that talks about the decibels that certain everyday things will make. For example, I'm not going to go through the whole list, but there's a few things here. A bandsaw is 104 decibels. A blower is 99 decibels. An edger is 86 decibels. A hedge trimmer is 103 decibels. A miter saw is 109 decibels. Riding lawnmower is 90 decibels. A table saw is 93 decibels. Just a few to give you an example. If we look at NAMBA rules, NAMBA is the North American Model Boat Association. They say that the maximum decibels allowed is 95 decibels at a 50-foot range. We played a video here a few weeks ago of the boats out on the lake, and I think that was not a good representation of the actual sound that these boats make. Number one, we played the video over these loudspeakers, and we're in an enclosed room. Of course, the decibels are going to sound a lot louder than they would out in the field. So I think that was a misrepresentation of how the boats sounded in an enclosed room versus being out again at the lake. I also some of the trustees had suggested running the boats on the big lake over by Building A. I went out there and investigated a little bit, and although the size of the lake would be fine, what I found was that there was more wildlife out there. I mean, you had some geese out there, you had more birds, you had more ducks. I by no means want to adversely affect our wildlife, but in comparison to East Lake, when we're out there, there's usually only a handful of ducks, and once they see people, they usually get out of the water and leave. And again, there's a lot less houses in that area. So I hope these are some examples that you can take into consideration when making this decision, whether or not we could run these boats. And again, just so the board knows, I'm really only hoping that we can do this 1 or 2 days a week in a set time frame. We're not looking to do this every single day. I mean, we all have lives, and we'd love to run boats every day, but we can't. So if we could come up with a schedule, that's fair, and just a few hours a day, obviously not early in the morning, that we could, be able to use our boats and not fear any repercussions. That's all we're really looking for. There's been a huge outcry of support over the RC boat issue, and I hope you can take this all into consideration today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. One question before you go up. So when you ran your boat the last time this happened, you were on East Lake, which is on the other side of Miko, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next agenda item, we have unfinished business, remote control boats, proposed usage and limitations. In your packet, you do have an agenda, or an email, a letter rather, for recommendation, not a recommendation, but a letter from Mr. Coffey. He laid out a number of items in his draft for the usage and limitations. We do not actually have a recommendation for this, so we're really up to discussion of the BOT right now to come up with some kind of consensus, look at these items, look at the draft, discuss them, and see what we would like to come up with. And whatever we do, we will then go back to Mr. Coffey, and he will prepare the appropriate changes in the rules and have them approved at our meeting, at our next meeting. So, John, do we want to start with you at all, or just throw this out? How would you like to do it?
Just for folks here and gathered at home watching, understand where this came from. There were comments from the trustees specifically about the Building A lake, and I solicited input from residents via the Peak of the Week, which were attached, and took into consideration comments made at the previous meeting and also the phone calls from the adjacent homeowners along East Lake that started this whole thing rolling last month. What I have before you is largely taken from surveys of other communities that have regulations about remote-controlled boats, trying to give you a framework. This isn't a what I think is best. I felt it was easier for you to become more restrictive than less restrictive. So up on the screen, I have this in a Word document that I can easily manipulate if there's something y'all want to take out, or conversely, if there's something you want to add, I can add to it. So if there's any questions of myself, Mr. Getz is outside, we're more than happy to try to answer them and or amend this as you see fit.
Okay, so questions and comments. Right off the bat, I would have a couple. First of all, I agree with the gentleman who just spoke that I think this should not be an everyday occurrence. I think it should be just a couple of days a week at a specific times, give them a pretty lenient way. The question would be, what are the days that are the best for this? Is it best on a weekend? Could the gentleman who was running this, could you come back up, please? If the trustees don't mind, I'd like to ask him some questions as we do this, okay? And we do that, by the way, folks, when we have a presentation that we actually need something from someone, we could have them come in and do a presentation for us or have information for us. The question I have for you is, if you started this running your boat, you talked about a couple of days a week. When do you work, sir?
No, I'm retired.
So you're retired. So when are the best times for you, for instance, to do this? On a weekend, during the week, or what?
I would say not. I mean, not the whole weekend, but
No, but it's not. It's no specific times that you need. You're looking at.
No, I would actually prefer during the at least one day during the week,
Okay.
and then I know there's a lot of other folks in the Bay that work during the week, and then so it may be viable to have one day for those folks.
I just wanted to make sure I heard you correct about when you talked about a couple of days. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, questions, comments?
I have a couple of questions. First of all, we're opening up to the Bay, all the community residents in the Bay. Where are they going to park if it's at East Lake, like the gentleman prefers? And number one. And number two, there's going to be more than just this gentleman's boat, obviously, when it becomes effective. So where are we going to have control of misuse of the boats in the water? I suggest, if anything, we have a permit for it with a number applied to the boat. So if there is a problem, okay, you know who to address the problem with. Okay. As far as the usage of the RC boats, in 1997, I took my liberty to look into it. Why did we have it at all here at Bay? And what was it about? Why did they stop it? Well, I asked the manager, Mr. Coffey, to to help me with this because I didn't know how far back and to investigate how far back they had usage of the bay with paddle boats, from what I understand, paddle boats, RC boats, kayaks. Okay? In 1997, when it was transferred over to the bay, okay, they had a big infestation of fleas, causing it to shut down. That's all I could find out. No one, well, 1997 is, a ways back. So as far as stopping it concerned, completely, I don't know why it was. The only requirement they had at that time, okay, was that it had to be a sail by sail or by battery. They had sailboats on the bay. They had battery-operated tugs, but they did not have any gasoline RC boats. So that left me blank as far as my history is concerned on that. Okay.
Thank you.
I think that there's no problem with electric and sailboats. The problem is, it was brought up about noise from a lot of people. And that show that we had last month was quite shocking of the sound on the motor from gasoline. But my biggest fear here is the environment. Okay, you say it's contained fuel. Your boat may be, but if gasoline is used in other boats, how are we to know? There is gasoline engines for those boats. Right? Other than that, I don't have nothing against sailboats or tugs, but gasoline, I'm a little. It's a question. How are you going to? I'm sorry, I lost the train of thought. But how are you going to see that the people are doing the right thing, or how many people are going to be there, or is it going to? Where's the parking? There's a lot of issues here to take before we, I think use that East Lake. Okay, that's why it was suggested around the pool, because there was parking. There's no problem there. But that's all I got
All
to
right.
say on that.
Thank you. Mr. Bruno.
Well, first of all, I think this proposal was very well done, and I think it gave us a very solid starting point for the RC boats. I do like the fact that we want to keep the gas boats in the West Lake. I think that makes a lot of sense. I also think that since we already have parking in front of Building A, that makes more sense than having parking all over the place by East Lake. So I think the lake outside of Building A is the better choice of the two lakes. Now, as far as the nitro boats, I did a little research on them. They are very loud, so the nitro-powered boats being excluded would be a really good idea. The other thing that I would add, I would just add one line to this. I would say no boats in front of the gazebo if we have an event over there. I mean, the last thing we need to do is have it rented out to a couple for a wedding and have boats in the background running around. So the only thing I would suggest is sort of one line that there's no operation of any boat behind the Sunset gazebo if there's a event going on there. Other than that, I think this is a great proposal. I'd like to give it a shot, and let's see where it goes.
Mr. Nugent.
Yes, I'm not really for or against the boats. What I'm concerned about is where the boats will operate. If it's going to be by Building A, I think we need to give the homeowners around Building A in that area of the lake an opportunity to see a demonstration so that they understand how loud the boats will be and whether or not that will negatively impact their lifestyle.
Thank you. I agree with Mr. Bruno that this, as I told Mr. Coffey, I thought this was very well put together, and then he told me he stole a lot of it, so, I took the comment back, compliment back. No, I thought it was very well put together. I think this is a very good framework to use. I would suggest, and I would suggest two things. One, I agree with the fact that it should only be a couple days a week. If someone's going to run a boat, I think you should do that. The reason I asked the gentleman about the days he was speaking about is I was at first thinking that it could be one day during the week and then let's say on a Saturday or Sunday, But again, on a Saturday and Sunday, we have music at the lounge and all these things going on in the afternoon, so you sure couldn't have it going on at that time either. I mean, it'd just be a distraction, I would think. So if we're going to do it, and I also think it should be a time limit. I think there should, I understand we have in here that it says prohibited from dusk to 9 a.m. Well, that's kind of an obvious one, but I also don't think we should have this running even in the morning. I would look at something like saying, we're going to have this a couple days a week, and they're free to run these boats from noon to 3:30 or noon to 4 or something like that, so that you knew specifically when they were going to run and when they could be run. And I'm not trying to set these on the people. I'm just suggesting that if we're going to do it, let's come up with something like that that says, yeah, sure, you can run these boats, but this is the way you would do it. Also, in our, do you have it on the screen about, can you put the other one up about the lake? They're showing the lake. You don't have that on there?
I don't have the map. of
Okay, you
this
don't have the
lake.
map. So in your packet, you know, you have the map in your agenda packet. You have the map, and it shows that electric and gas-powered boats would be allowed in the area over on the other side of the putt-putt greens, et cetera.
I thought you meant East Lake,
What's that?
Mr. I thought you meant East Lake, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, no.
The map
This
is
is the
up.
one I mean here, yeah. So again, something like this, I think if we're going to do it in these areas, I think needs to be very specific. You say, yes, this is when they will be in. These are the boats that will run in these lakes. Now, it brings to the question, I guess, that why not East Lake? I mean, have we didn't even look at that because it was the homeowners there that complained, or what?
Well, the homeowner conflict with the RC boat users, what drove this issue to come to the board to begin with. But the other issue is there's no real parking in those locations.
Okay, I just want to make sure, yeah. Thank you. And I agree with that. I just wanted to make sure we had the facts of why we're doing it. So, again, before we leave this item, I think we have to come to some conclusions. I know consensuses are not that big anymore, but we have to come to a consensus of, first of all, are we going to allow the boats to run? And I guess that's the first thing I would ask. They're going to run. They are. Mr. Mike, you talked about. You thought about sailboats, and again, it's not that. It's going to be either the electric boats or the gas boats, no matter what. That's what we have to decide on. So the question would be: number one, are we going to allow them to run in our lakes? Number two, which lakes are we going to allow them to run to? And we had the map up here of both sides of the bridge by Building A and by the lounge. And I believe that we should come up with days or possibly go back to staff and say, yes, we agree to do this, but we want 2 days a week, and we want a specific time frame, not just simply from 9 until 7 o'clock at night, but run it from a specific time.
Mr. Chairman, may I suggest Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday from 12 noon to 5 p.m. as our starting point?
I'm sorry, say it again.
May I suggest that we go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday afternoons, 12 to 5 as our starting
Do
point?
we want it on Saturday, though, when we have music?
Oh, yeah.
See, we have music in the lounge on Saturday, and I'm not sure all those people would want to have those boats out there running around. I don't know that. Maybe they'd enjoy it. I'm just simply saying, if I was listening to a band over there, and we've gone over and parked our cart and listened to the band sometime, and if it was a really good band, and all of a sudden have a boat going by.
What if you kept the boats over on the west side? Would that still interfere with the entertainment?
I don't know.
How about electric only on Saturday?
Oh, I might.
Could do something like that, maybe. So, that's a very good idea. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
that's a good idea.
So consensus. We're not actually voting because we don't have a recommendation here. But John, let's put it down this way, that we're going to ask the question of the board that, number one, do we agree they should be run, period? That's the first thing. Number two, do we agree in the areas that they run? And I would add the suggestion that was just given that if we go on a weekend day, that it would be electric boats only on that weekend day. 2 other days during the week is fine. I would also add that we would have a specific time frame. So Mr. Gruno said from
from 12 to 5, well, that's fine. 12 to 4, 12 to 5, I don't care what it is. I'm not sure how long they run these boats. But if we do that, we would ask staff to come back, pick the days they think are best, pick those times, and bring it back as a change to the rules. Am I correct in the way I'm putting this? Okay? So again, you understand what I'm saying? We had like 4 points there, I believe. 3 or 4 points. So it's a consensus. Mr. Morrissey, again, are you against RC boats completely? No, just so if we come up with a system like this, you consensus, we should look at it?
I'd like to add a way of identifying the boats and the ownership.
Good point, absolutely. We could possibly do that. Maybe, well, of course, we don't want them coming in and, we
Say
don't wanna
like
get- we
a
don't wanna give them
permit
a license, but,
and assign the number to the boat.
yeah, we could look at something like that, too. Mr. Gruno, the points that we talked about, are you in a consensus agreement that we should look at doing this?
Absolutely.
Because if we come to consensus, we're agreeing that we're going to put these boats on the lake. Mr. Nugent?
I am.
Okay. And I am also. I'm not sure this is going to meet everything that these people want, but I think it's a starting point. East Lake is out. The area on the maps that we have there would be the chosen areas. Electric boats only on the other side over there if it's running on a Saturday, and just a couple days a week, 3 days a week at a certain time. Is that enough?
If I can seek a clarification about the permitting, is it your desire to have the boat permitted or the user permitted? Because it'd be easier to give a homeowner or a renter who has a valid badge a sticker on their badge that they have RC boat rights. Or we'd be putting a sticker on the boat.
The question I see, before you go, the question I see about this is if, let's say Mr. Vieira is out there running his boat, and someone else has a boat, and they say, oh my God, he's out running a boat, and boys, that's great, I'm going to run home and get my boat and run it. What does he do now? Wait until a couple days or the next day before he goes to the permit? Are we going to make it that kind of a thing? I'm not,
Well, this kind of limits the situation if there's a problem with the operator. You know that you need to have some sort of identification for the boat.
yeah.
How else, can you, approach the issue with the gentleman or lady that's on the boat? You don't know who it is. So you need a permit.
But going down that line of argument, what about somebody coming in here with a golf cart and they don't belong to Barefoot Bay? We going to do something about that?
Well, they can't go on the golf course unless it's registered.
Okay.
No.
What about somebody coming in with maybe an illegal motorcycle of some sort? I think permitting is going to go down a road that's going to cause a lot of grief for us. And I see where Mr. Morrissey's going, where we'd like to know who's doing what. But I mean, do we actually go out on the tennis courts and see if everybody's got a badge? Do we go out in the pickleball courts? So I think this is setting up an obstacle that's just going to cause more trouble. And I would say, and in deference maybe to Mr. Morrissey, I would say let's put a 6-month review on this, get it started, have a 6-month review, see if we
I
got to
think you
go.
mentioned something like that, didn't you? Yeah.
And
I did mention
then reconsider permitting if we need to.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, he had mentioned something like that earlier. So just look at it from that perspective, okay? Enough? Thank you. So again, for the audience and those at home, we did not make a motion on this. There was no recommendation. We did not make a motion. We looked at the plan. We came up with 4 or 5 different things. We're going to go back and put together in a plan that will change. We can't do it until we change our rules. We actually have a book of rules. And they'll go back and they'll change that, come back to us. The board will then vote to put that back into the rules, and it'll be legal. Okay? All right. Item B, 8 unfinished business. Item B, continuation of fiscal year 22 proposed budget discussions. Mr. Coffey.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is divided into 2 agenda items. The first one is just an overview for anyone who had not attended the 2 budget workshops we had, and I'll go quickly through this. And if there's any questions, I can answer that. On the revenue side of the equation, we increased 22 through 24 vehicle storage fees, deleted the bank loan plan for FY22. On the expenditure side, we converted the management analyst position, formerly budgeted part of the SDS contract, to a BBRD employee, which has a slight increase over the 5 years due to rate of growth of benefits of district versus SDS. Deleted the bank loan validation cost, deleted the bank loan debt service cost, defunded the Lounge Lakeside expansion projects Phase 1, Phase 2, and defunded the beach project in FY22. Additionally, we learned outside of the meeting that Health First, which happened to make the paper today in Florida Today, very timely, is getting out of the insurance, group insurance market, and our broker has said that we probably can assume a 15 to 20% increase in FY20. And so refactoring that in with a assumed 7.5% growth in the out years adds about $30,000 to FY22 budget and about $168,000 through the 5-year period. Therefore, I listed some of the one-year annual snapshots of available monies. With that being said, I will jump in, unless there's a question of the board, I'll jump into the next one, which was follow-up on the Lounge Lakeside expansion project. And there's multiple attachments I won't go through, but we were asked to come back and look at some of the items individually. The 4,600 square foot wraparound metal canopy as originally designed, estimated standalone is about $408,000. The outside bar as originally designed by itself is $108,000. And a metal shade structure, and this was my miscommunication. I thought when the board was talking awning, they meant the wraparound canopy. But a metal awning, much smaller in size, 39 feet by 36 feet, is approximately $30,000. And there are probably some site work outside of that $29,000. But that brings us back to bringing back the information you asked for. We had planned on authorizing the mail out at the May 14th meeting. We have the ability to have a follow-up discussion and do the mail out at the second meeting in May, which is our traditional mail out date if so desired. So it's not like you have to make final decisions today, but unless we have more standalone workshops, we would only have the May 14th meeting to talk about the proposed budget again before doing the mail out.
Okay, so I think we do have to come to more of an agreement, more of a consensus as to what we're doing for sure. We are not going for the $1 million loan. The first question would be if we're going to put a canopy up like we talked about a little bit the last meetings. I mean, we're almost talking about the same kind of money for that kind of thing as was in the original plan, correct? Which is, again, where's that money going to come from? Number two, if you go with the metal shade structure you talked about there, that's an awning that, explain that a little bit, how that would work and where it would be exactly, how that would come.
Let me go down through some of the, that is the proposed wraparound canopy.
That's the $407,000.
Yeah. The wraparound, the awning itself would fit more in this area right here. Ms. Mendes could speak to the specifics, but it's mainly geared for this area here because this is I know this is a busy picture, but this right here is the existing lounge building. This is the covered walk area. You have a canopy that comes off here. You have a standalone structure here. This would add a third separate structure in this vicinity.
So show me again where that would be.
It would be in this area here,
Okay.
assuming the heater building
Right.
goes away. The reason you don't need it over the bar is there's a roof built into the $108,000 bar proposal. That's why it costs $100,000. So the awning would be a standalone structure that would come off the south side and add another shade structure.
Okay, and again, we have to make sure and remember, we already have in the budget money to move the heater. That's already in the budget for '22. We already have in the budget to change the pit. That's in the budget for '22. So those things will be changed, which will give us additional space on the dance floor or the floor area.
Well, you wouldn't be able to put that size of awning in the 36 by 39 without taking out the,
And that's what I'm saying. So it's already in
Yeah.
there to go, so you
Correct.
could put it in there, which again will give you more space too. So I think the only question we really have is what, we said at the last meeting, we were fairly confident that we want to go with the bar, 108,000, whatever it was. We already have budgeted to move the heater. It's in the budget. We already have the pit replacement in the budget. We're not talking about whether that's going or not. The only thing we're really talking about is whether or not what type of canopy or what that we put in. And again, you're talking about 407,000 or, under 100,000. And if there's some way that someone knows of having $407,000 to put that in, then I guess I'd be ready to listen, but I'm not out for making loans to do that. I would not be in favor of it. So,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, one thing I'll add is the awning that's quoted there for about $30,000 is a metal structure. It's not like the shade structures we currently have that have cloth that come off at the first threat of hurricane and then they're down all winter. This would be a hurricane-rated metal structure that would be up all the time.
okay,
And
thank you.
that's why it's $30,000 versus $6,000 or $7,000.
Questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to see us get rid of that pit as soon as possible. We have the funds. I would like to see us get rid of the heater. We got the funds. I would like to see the bar put on priority status. I think the sooner we start making revenue out there, the better off we're going to be. And maybe take a 2-month moratorium on the canopy and see where that's at. But I'd like to do the heater pit, the heater, and get that outside bar built.
And again, the heater and the pit are already in there. That's in the budget. We don't have no decision on that. I think we also have the kitchen in the budget, don't we? The, not remote kitchen, but the trailer kitchen. That's already in there also. So that's approved. So that's going to add to the food service back there. So there are things already in there. We're really, down talking to, do we add the bar, which I agree, that we put the bar out there. And I guess I would ask, Jeff, what would the couple months help us with deciding about the canopy? I mean, I hate to keep putting it off too, but I guess I'm almost looking for a decision one way or another.
While my gut reaction would be, let's do it and find the money, 2 months might give us a better idea of how to fund it.
Okay, Mr. Nugent, Mr. Morrissey.
I'm not for borrowing the money. If we can find it somewhere, yes.
Well, I don't think we have $407,000. We're not going to take it out of fund equity, fund balance. I mean, I would never
No.
be in favor of that.
No, if I can make a suggestion, Mr. Chairman, especially since Mr. Loveland was not able to join us tonight, let me go back and crunch the numbers for the May 14th of having the bar and the $30,000 awning in next year and bring that back to you for your
Okay.
review.
Okay, sounds good. Is that good enough?
I would agree.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. Hard for me to reach here. Phase reopening discussion. Mr. Coffey.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. For those watching for the first time, the board, at the start of the pandemic, agreed to review the status of the phased reopening at each board meeting. Staff at most of the meetings will have a recommendation. Our recommendation for this meeting is not to have any additional reopenings. Scheduled for May 1st is an expansion of the inside capacities and reopening of Building C. We'd like to get that done next week and reassess going forward at May 14th.
Questions, comments?
Sounds reasonable.
Reasonable.
Sounds good.
We don't really need any other direction, right? Thank you. New business, trimming of palm trees on the golf course. Mr. Coffey?
Trustee Nugent requested during the budget preparation cycle to develop cost proposal for the FY22 working draft proposed budget to consider trimming the palm trees twice a year on the golf course. So that was included as a decision point. Unfortunately, I did not recommend that because I'm concerned of long-term costs related to energy cost, minimum wage, and the assessment cap. Mr. Nugent subsequently requested I put this on this agenda for consideration of doing it this year. We checked back with the quotes that we had received. Both Jimmy's Tree Service and Siemens Tree Service have done work in the bay. Siemens Tree Service has done work for us recently. As with a lot of times, sometimes when you request quotes, Jimmy's Tree Service quoted exactly what we asked. Siemens Tree Service came out and pointed out other things that he thought would make the golf course look better, and that's part of the reason there's a difference in there. Both have good reputation. Staff request direction on this matter.
Thank you. Open it up for discussion. Well, actually, there's no recommendation here either. I also have heard and had questioned of me a number of times, do we have included in the budget to trim the palm trees, et cetera, because some of it does look bad. But questions, comments, discussion, do we want to look at this? Is it something we want to do this year still? Is it something we put up to 2022? Comments, question. Mr. Nugent, start with you.
Sure. I think a couple of things we need to take into consideration. Matt Getz and his crew have done a great job trimming the palm trees along Barefoot Boulevard, some of the common areas, making the place very appealing to people as they drive in. I think we need to extend that now so that the golf course becomes even more appealing to people who are driving in. The other thing is if you live on the golf course or adjacent to the golf course, during high winds, these palm fronds are projected at your house like missiles. And I think from a safety standpoint, it's important that we have this done as well. And I think basically the $15,000 is inexpensive money to invest in that.
Did we have this in a budget previous to this? Or
No.
In any plan prior to this?
No, Trustee Nugent requested it be in the FY22
Okay.
working draft,
Okay.
and it was considered, but it wasn't recommended for funding.
So it wasn't ever in any of the, what's that group that takes care of the golf course? It's not in their plan or that they do any of that or anything like that? right?
ABM is
ABM.
is contractually required to trim up to, I believe it's 10 or 12 feet.
Okay.
And then they pick up what falls.
Okay. Comments, questions?
What presented it now? What was the pea under the pillow that we need to do the trees now?
I think if you go on the golf course, there are so many of them that are hanging down and brown hanging down that it's just starting to look bad. And a perfect example is about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I didn't bring this item here, by the way, but 3 or 4 weeks ago, we were all standing out by the tables that we have outside there, and it was a windy day, and one of those palm fronds came down And luckily, I was in my golf cart, and it landed on my golf cart, and we thought it cracked right through the top of it. They are heavy. They are heavy. They're solid. If a person would have gotten hit with that, or like Mr. Nugent said, if it flew into windows or came off in a windstorm, they are very heavy items. And I guess enough people talked about it out there that it was brought up.
So we've never, ever done a full crew cut of the golf course in quite a few years.
Correct.
I don't know. I don't think so, have we?
We've not trimmed them since I've been here 7.5 years, and up until the last year or so, we did not excessively trim on the common areas. That's something that Matt's folks have taken on their own to gradually trim them up higher.
And again, they are, these things are, 5, 6 feet long when they're coming down sometime. They are very heavy, so. And they look bad, I agree. Actually, I believe we have in the DOR that when homeowners have these things and they're hanging down, they can get a notice, I believe, if they don't take care of them and remove them.
Well, the standard is if it's within a dead frond within 6 feet of the ground.
Okay,
So
all right, okay. I knew there was something, yeah.
Our trees, the golf course trees, are in compliance with the DOR.
Sure. No, and I wasn't suggesting they were. I didn't mean it that way. I just remember there was something about it, yeah.
My suggestion would be, there's $3,000 difference, and I've been around tree trimming for quite a bit. I think the second bid, if we're going to drag out equipment out there, and we're going to bring the chipper out, and they're going to be out on the golf course, I'd do the oaks while you're there, too. I think that's a reasonable bid. I'm not sure I'd do it twice a year, but for one, I think go through and get it done once before hurricane season.
Do we have, where would we don't have this as a funded project, where would we get the money for this from? Just
Fund
moving some things
yeah,
away?
Probably fund balance.
Yeah, okay. Well, gentlemen, you have 2 proposals, 2 questions. One, do we do it this year, which I think is suggested that we do, in the 2021 budget yet? And number 2, if we do, which of these services do we go with? Again, one is $11,805, and one is, what is it, 15?
If you are going to do those, my suggestion would be go with the Siemens Tree Service. That, no disrespect to Jimmy's Tree Service, they probably would have quoted us for all the other stuff, but it's sort of like when you ask for a contractor to come in and paint your walls, and one of them notices you have a water leak and quotes you to fix the water leak and then paint the walls. They both would do good work. Siemens would, while they're out there, and this is going to inconvenience the golfers while they're doing it. I talked with Mr. Cruz today about how we would work this, and when they were out there, because they're going to haul the clippings to points to haul them out of here. We would be closing like one hole at a time. So the few days that they were out doing this, people would be playing 17 holes of golf instead of 18.
For the number of trees we have, is this a lengthy project, do we think, or is it just a few days?
Based on how they've done work, I would estimate this as less than a week of work.
Okay.
Things come up, but if they come out and we don't have soggy grass, because they have some unique little mechanical things that carry clumps of items to and from, so they're not driving big trucks out to fill. That question never occurred to me to ask, but based on how they've done work before, they get in and out as much as they can, and both of them have a reputation of leaving the sites cleaner than they found them.
Thank you. Okay, we have a recommendation from staff to go with Siemens Tree Service to trim palm trees. Is there a motion to accept that
Mr.
recommendation?
Chairman, on the issue, just one item. In the past, or up until this time, has the R1 people taken care of the trees?
Our what?
the lawn, that's the trees.
No, they're not, no.
They
no,
have
no.
never-
As Mr. Coffey said, they only go up to a certain length, like 6 feet or something
I
up
see.
ground.
I
No.
see.
And these are all hanging from the top.
Okay, no problem. I just want to
this-
find
this-
out if they were doing it
Okay.
fast.
This is going to need professional equipment.
What's that?
This is going to
Yeah.
need professional equipment.
So again, do we have a motion to accept that recommendation?
So moved.
Mr. Nugent moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by who? Mr. Bruno? Okay, further discussion, questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Now, do we need a motion to
Well,
trim the trees?
are we also talking about doing this budget item every year? Is that what you're? It was this year, yes. Okay. So what are you asking? No, that was the motion. We just made a motion to do it in this fiscal year. In this budget, in this fiscal year, we're going to take it out of fund balance. No, that's what the motion was, 2021. Okay, any other questions about that? It's going to be done this year. New business B, request to increase monthly payment for services provided by the Over 60 Softball Association. This was new to me, I enjoyed reading it. Mr. Coffey.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. For several years, the Bay has contracted with the Over 60 Softball Association for certain services performed down at the softball field. We believe that we have a very cost-effective benefit to the residents. For folks who are curious, my staff takes care of the perimeter of the area. ABM focuses on the outfield turf and irrigation, and the Over 60 softball people take care of the clay infield and help keep the buildings clean. And all three work together very well. History of this, in 2016, the board amended the agreement to increase $40 to $728. Recently, the Over 60 Softball Association President Forrest Banta submitted a request to increase the monthly fee by $72 to make it around $800 a month. This is approximately $864 annual impact. Staff recommends the BOT approve the amended agreement and authorize Chairman Mino to sign the agreement.
Is there a motion to approve that recommendation?
Move to approve.
Mr. Gruno, is there a second to the motion? Second by Mr. Morrissey. This, as far as discussion, this is almost as a no-brainer. I appreciate that they do this, and for that amount of money, it's kind of a no-brainer. But any other discussion, questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Building A renovations changeover.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In for folks who, I will not try to bring this up to date because we have had a lot of different moving issues on this. If you're new to Barefoot Bay or you just haven't been following this, please see me later in the week, shoot me an email, and I'll give you as much information as you want. But on March 23rd, the BOT approved 3 change orders with the understanding that there were potentially 6 additional areas of concern that could generate change orders. Have those 6 listed, will not read them. Mr. Getz and I walked this project multiple times a day. It is coming along very well, but there's a lot of moving parts, and trying to logistically do things in an efficient manner of, say, have your electricians in at one time to do all their work requires a lot of sequential work to be done in a proper way. Additionally, the contractor had requested information from the district and our engineers. Hence, the contractor has come back requesting 39 additional days, and I don't have the price there. And a few $1,000s more. Let me get to, oh, I'm sorry. I did not load the proper, I thought I had that. Anyway, the change orders, it's approximately $3,000, Mr. Chairman. Let me find it real quick. I apologize about that. I thought I had everything loaded properly. Yeah, the two change orders, one is in the amount of $1,373, and that deals with the main kitchen entry. The plans had shown the ceiling going, the new entrance bump out going straight up into the angled ceiling. And as the contractor was getting ready to do that work, conflicts with the existing HVAC and electrical system would have cost us more than putting in a flat roof. Well, the flat roof took some time to get through the design and permitting from Brevard County. So that is where the majority of the 39 days come from, and the amount of the $1,100 is far less than the deconflicting, the electrical, and the HVAC would have been. The other change order was the design had a certain square footage for the walk-in cooler. The walk-in cooler is a story in its own, but we had to give the vendor, not the contractor, but the supplier, a deposit, who then gave a deposit to his supplier of the walk-in cooler. At that time, they would release the specs, which they released the specs, and the specs for the pad was 21% larger than what was in the initial design. So the additional $2,500 of the change order is for the larger pad they had to pour the concrete. In retrospect, this takes substantial completion into early June. I know no one is happy with the delay on this, but I personally feel my professional obligation to the community is to ensure the project is done the best it can be for the best long-term benefit to the community. So although no one is happy with the delay in time, staff does recommend the board approve the change orders and the 39-day extension.
I do not have that. So the change order is for how much? Okay, so there's a change order of $11,600 with respect to item 6, correct? That's the only one? No. And then
the two change orders, one is $1,138, and that's for the kitchen entrance ceiling adjustment. The slab is $2,500 for a total of $3,657.26 plus 39 days.
Okay, all right. Is there, again, staff, and then the 39 days on top of the two change orders. Is there a recommendation, or is there a motion to approve that recommendation by staff?
Move to approve.
Again, the actual numbers, I think, are $1,137.74, I believe, correct? And $2,519.52. You made a motion to accept the recommendation? Is there a second to that? Seconded by Mr. Nugent. Questions, comments? And 39 days, by the way, 39 days extension.
Question for John. What will that do for the meet and greet for the CVO?
It has been planned outside, so good call on CVO president to plan for the meet and greet to be outside lakeside of the lounge.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Manager's report.
Okay. The ARC permit on the 13th, the ARC meeting on the 13th of April, 10 consent items were approved, 9 other permits, 6 were approved, 2 additional with stipulations, 1 denied. ARC meeting today, all 30 permits were approved. Next ARC meeting is the 11th of May in the Administration Building Conference Room, 9 a.m. Mr. Armington has been doing a good job of getting voluntary compliance, so there was no violation meeting last Friday. The next one scheduled for May 14th in this building. Interesting facts for March, 54 homes were sold, 92 residents received their badges, and 50 orientation sessions were held for new homeowners. Food and Beverage is having Cinco de Mayo on May 6th this year. I tried to be funny in the peak of the week using Spanish and got told my Spanish wasn't very good, so I will drop that joke. Karaoke is 6 to 9, and weather permitting, it'll go on. We'll have a taco bar lakeside with special Mexican spirit drinks. Flyers are posted. And starting Saturday, May 1st, music time lakeside will change to 6 to 10 p.m. on Saturday. Jack band, street dances return to the normal schedule every other Sunday. Mother's Day is May 9th with soul time on the lakeside band, 2 to 6 p.m. Property Services, busy as ever, knocking out one of the R&M capital projects in-house at the softball field. Finally got Pool 2 open with most people happy with everything. Facilitated inspections of all our pools with the health inspectors. Ran into a bigger project of burned out lights in the Bill Nye parking lot. Parts are on order. Completed a stopgap drainage project behind the lounge. Very good quality next time you're back there. One of the cuts is very obvious. The other couple, you have to really look to see where they put them in. They did a good job. We seem to have gotten over the hump of vandalism around the playground and softball field, and continuing to work on the Veterans Hallway. If you're looking in the door, the wooden, I don't know what you call it, little desk that used to sit out of the wall, and the service placards and the 2 eagles are taken down. They're not missing. They're in storage. We're getting ready for the kiosk to be delivered and the setup of that, and then we will reposition the artwork along with the TV monitor there. And also have been working on our animal trap valet service. It's a little feature a lot of folks don't know about, but instead of you bringing your car and putting a stinky humane animal trap in, we will loan you one and even bring it to your house, and once you are done with it, come and pick it up. We won't pick up the animal, but we will pick it up. Gulf Pro Shop, irrigation intake dredging quote was signed on April 5th. This helps lessen the maintenance work at the site of the heads. Mr. Cruz is starting to work on the grant project. We have finally gotten the COVID safe junior camp details worked out, 2 sessions. Sign-ups begin next week, and summer rates coming May 1st also. General information, yesterday I received official notice that May 31st will be the last day that the Veterans Service Office will be used by the veterans. This will be wrapped into the Veterans Gathering Center, the old Resident Relations Office. Staff will place on the May 14th meeting agenda for direction regarding use of this space. I have a feeling a lot of folks are going to have ideas, and instead of us trying to get the crystal ball out there. And lastly, as the trustees are aware, in anybody's bulk email, we didn't get any responses to the RFP because we had a moment where we loaded the wrong file onto DemandStar. And therefore, I'm asking the board's permission to re-advertise this next week. Same people. Policy manual requires that I state the members and dates. So the voting members would be Trustee Gruneau, Chairman Emeritus Klosky, Property Services Manager Getz, Chairman Mino and myself will be non-voting members. It'll be advertised May 3rd, open from May 4th through June 4th, evaluations June 7th and 14th. Do I have the board's permission?
I would see no dissension to that, right? Agreement? Yes, fine, thank you.
And lastly, I have a special announcement. Big news. It's really big news.
Good
It's
response,
so
young guy.
big. It is huge. And if you do not, and if I don't get over this soon, I'll be in bigger trouble than I normally am. So, happy birthday, Stephanie.
Hey, happy birthday to you. Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday.
to you. Happy birthday, dear Stephanie. Happy birthday to you.
And the fire marshal prohibits placing an appropriate number of candles on the cake as it would be a fire hazard. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Attorney's report, Mr. Reppinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Briefly, I sent an email out during the meeting just to advise you of a settlement of a case. It's a longstanding case. Some of you are aware of it if you've been paying attention. It was a liability case. It was related to a 2016 dog bite. The district was named as a party in the action. It's a 2018 case. Your prior carrier denied coverage of the claim. The case has been kind of, there hasn't been a lot of action on the case. There was a primary principal defendant that entered into a monetary settlement with the plaintiff, but the district was still named in the suit, and the suit did continue. Deputy Counsel Runte was able to convince the plaintiff's counsel to finally dismiss Barefoot Bay from the action. So what I've sent you in the email is a copy of the voluntary dismissal of the action from plaintiff's counsel in that case. There was no requirement for the payment of any settlement amount or anything. We picked up on a technical defect in the service, and given the length of time that the case had been pending, they couldn't refile against the district, so the voluntary dismissal is with prejudice as to the plaintiff, so there's no consequence related to that action, and that ends the case. So that's that on that case. Beach restroom, Mr. Coffey didn't hit on it, but I will. We had a telephone conference week and a half, 2 weeks ago, with both of your engineers, the site engineer, Scott Globitz, and TLC. It was a rather technical, detailed conversation about the appropriate provisions of the building code that apply to the project and the interpretation of those codes. Mr. Globitz holds the position that he doesn't think that the piles are required. When we left that conversation, the representative for TLC, Colin, was going to look at that issue to see if he was in concurrence with Scott's opinion. We've not heard back from him, and John and I talked about that. Mr. Coffey and I talked about that today. I'm going to follow up with Colin the next day or so, maybe tomorrow if I can get a hold of him, to see if he has formalized that opinion. If he can come to the same conclusion that Scott Globitz has come to, that it's not required, then the plans will be submitted without showing the required piles. If he cannot get to that conclusion and that comfort level, then he will let us know, and what we will do is then we will be back in the court of applying for a variance with the county. But we need to get that opinion from Colin before we know exactly what track we need to take. So that's where that issue is.
Any idea when you think that could happen?
Well, I quite candidly, I thought we'd have heard back from him by now, but I've been attending to some other issues, and Mr. Coffey and I just talked about it today to say, hey, we need to follow back up on that issue, so I will make a point to make a call tomorrow to see where we're at on that. The Stewart Medical lease, hopefully we will have that draft finalized by next week. That would probably put us on the last May agenda for that, for you all to see that. So let's hope that we can get that, because that'll give them time to finally review it and then get it on the agenda. And DOR updates, we have a bunch of hearings that are coming up within the next 2 weeks, as was indicated on the last status report that we gave you. I do not have that updated status report tonight. We have made a number of additional filings for summary judgment that we wanted to update on the list before we send it out, so we just haven't done that today before the hearing, but I will get that to you ASAP, hopefully by the end of this week. But there are a number of hearings, if you look on this last status list that we gave you, that are coming up over the next couple of weeks, so you'll see a couple of final judgments that should be coming down the way on those cases within the next couple of weeks. And then the only other thing I was going to say on the DOR cases is I get a lot of help on those cases from Ms. Runty, and she was here visiting you last time. She has announced that she is pregnant, and she will be having twins, and she is due in the fall. And so the reason why I raise this issue with you is, one, to celebrate Ms. Runty and tell you that she's going to have twins. God bless her. But also that there is a certain amount of urgency for us. We want to try to get as many of these cases to final judgment before the blessed day comes. And so we're going to try to expedite those in advance of that due date, those final hearings, to try to get them into a posture that we can get as many final hearings as we can before that day comes. So we're working on that as expeditiously as we can. And that is all I have this evening.
Question for you, Cliff. And,
Yes, sir.
Again, not understanding a lot of this. And it goes back to comment that Lorraine mentioned earlier, and I was going to explain a little bit about that at the end of my remarks. But how many cases do we have, like right now, DOR out there?
I can tell you exactly how many there are if you give me 1 second.
And those cases that you're talking about there are cases that are going to, explain, to the courts.
They have all been referred to our office.
Referred to yours. But I guess my point is, and I wanted to make sure you understood, like the last time we were going to forgive this debt, this was a debt not forgiving the owner who accumulated the debt. It was a forgiveness of a debt that the new owner who took the house over now had to pay.
Right.
And if I understood before, this was a case simply that when the owner who ran up all this debt with us, $7,000, let's say, or whatever it is, and then he sold that house. That was not a lien on the house when the new buyer bought it. He didn't have to pay that then, did he? It was a bill from us.
Well, here's what happens in those cases. So there's two different tracks that a case can take when it goes into DOR enforcement. One is it can reach the level that it actually gets to me, and it depends on the nature of the violation. The others are ones that staff self-initiates correction.
Okay.
So if you have like a lot, or if you have a yard mowing or a power washing kind of situation where it wouldn't make a lot of sense to put it into the courts and the staff can resolve that case and mow it, those go into that track. So they're being maintained by the district, and the costs that are associated with that maintenance are recorded as a claim of lien against the property. What happened in the cases that we're talking about, if I'm understanding correctly what the comment was about, is that there were a number of different properties that sold at tax deed sale. And when they sold at tax deed sale, the liens were not satisfied. So the liens are not satisfied as part of the tax deed sale. A new owner at tax deed sale can take ownership of the property, and then that's subject to the district's lien. So the liens are still on the property, but a new owner has come in.
So again, he could not take ownership of that property until the lien was paid, though, right?
Well,
even on a tax deed sale.
He's taking it subject to the lien. However, here's the point. The point is the new owner had nothing to do with the prior violation, and the new owner has, in a number of cases, expressed a willingness to staff to redevelop the property and get it back into compliance and get it back on the tax
And the
roll.
point is, in this last case, and that's what I want to make sure we understand, you know, if we go out and somehow there's a lien on a home, and when that owner wants to go and sell his home now that lien is going to be on there, and it's going to go out, somebody has to pay that. So he doesn't really want to do that, because let's say it's a $10,000 lien, well, he goes to sell his house for $200,000, it's now going to be $210,000, because that's got to be paid. In this case, it was taken over and sold as a tax deed sale, and so the owner could care less. He didn't
Correct.
pay either way, he lost the home.
Right.
And so what we did was we punished the new person by having him pay a bill that the old owner had. And I want to make sure people understand that. This was not a new owner or an owner who suffered at all in this case. He had already lost the home.
That-
When we made the new owner pay the bill.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I'll take it a step further. There were a number of cases that this board considered in November where the district actually was the one, because of the way that we purchased the tax certificates, that actually was the initiator of the sale. So when the new owners came in, not only, I mean, it was a benefit to the district because the district received all the revenue from the
Exactly.
sales, but in order to get those lots redeveloped,
Right.
the
Right.
recommendation was to waive the past due amounts so that those new owners could develop the lots economically, and that's what the board
And
decided
I just
to
want to
do.
make sure people know, we're not out here putting liens on owners' homes and then saying, well, we'll forgive you. These are
No.
tax deed sales
No.
that we're looking to forgive,
Yeah,
not owners who are running these bills.
The owners that incur the debt are not the ones that are receiving the benefit of the
They're not
waiver.
out even there, okay,
Right.
thank you
And there
very
are,
much.
and just FYI, there's 24 cases on the list.
Okay.
Not all of them are in litigation, but
Okay,
there's
thank you.
24.
Anything else, Cliff?
That's all.
Incidental trustees, Mr. Gruno.
I was just going to say, I think we had a very substantive, healthy meeting tonight, made some solid choices.
Thank you. Mr. Morrissey. Mr. Nugent.
Yeah, I have a question. We're now in the second month of the beginning the second month of the second quarter, and I'm still looking for the CVO financials.
Still what?
Looking for the CVO financial statement.
That was asked to me before too, John, one time. We had talked about them doing a quarterly kind of report. Have we ever set anything up as to when that will be done, how it will be done, anything like that?
No, I can speak with the CVO president before the next meeting.
I don't think we ever set up a framework even, did we?
I think the lease was effective the 1st of March. So if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the 1st of March. So even though we're in that quarter,
Okay.
from their perspective of signing the lease, they may not be looking at it the same way.
Okay,
So
okay.
just
But we
FYI.
a good question. We'll definitely check into that. Anything else, Mr. Nugent? I have nothing else. If there are no other comments, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Mr. Gruno made a motion to adjourn. The meeting is adjourned.